Good afternoon, and thanks for joining us on the Lunchroom at Radio Caribbean International. It is Thursday, November the 2nd, 2023, and this is program number 1085 of the Lunchroom. I'm your host, Calixte George Jr. Now, in addition to 101.1 FM radio, you can also get us at our website, rcistlucia.com, and as well, we are on YouTube. Just search for our page there, and of course, be sure to subscribe to that page as well, and please share the link with your friends and family. The number to call in and tell us what's on your plate today, it is 452-3046, again 452-3046, and you can also message in via WhatsApp number, that is 724-0008. You can of course also call in to that number, again it is 724-0008. Now, some birthday greetings going out to former Ambassador Sonia Johnny. Happy birthday to you, and we hope that you're having a fantastic birthday celebration. We're also sending greetings to Mr. Kwame Venner on his birthday. We do hope that he's having a fantastic birthday. Hope you're enjoying it to the max. Also sending some birthday greetings to Iva St. Rose, and happy birthday to you, and we do hope that you're having a splendid birthday celebration. And also to Mr. Milad Habib, happy birthday to you, and wishing you an absolutely fantastic birthday. Now, actually, you'll be celebrating your birthday, if she was still alive, with the Queen of France, Marie Antoinette, and as well the rapper Nelly, celebrating his birthday today. And now, some bit of history. In the year 1875, Verny Cameron reached Benguela in Angola, and that was the first European to cross the equatorial Africa from sea to sea. In the year 1917, the Balfour Declaration proclaimed support for a Jewish state in Palestine. 1930, on this day, November the 2nd, saw the coronation of Rastafari Makonnen as Haile Selassie I, the 225th emperor of the Ethiopian Solomonic dynasty. 1949, on this day, the Netherlands recognized its former colony, Indonesia, as a sovereign state. In 1966, the Cuban Adjustment Act came into force, allowing 123,000 Cubans the opportunity to apply for permanent residence in the United States of America. And for those of you who have babies out there, you probably might know this one. And children, in 2020, Baby Shark by Ping Fong became the most watched video on YouTube with over 7.04 billion views. And we now move on to our dish of the day. The Daily Dish is brought to you the kind compliments of our good friends at Tiles Plus.
One tiles for your home, I see. Bathroom, kitchen, pantry. Need tiles for your balcony. Come down to Tiles Plus, satisfaction guarantee. Tiles Plus, Tiles Plus, Tiles Plus. Big tiles with unbeatable cost. Customer service, A+. There's all kind of tiles. Come down to Tiles Plus. We also glass, gasway, and vanity. Box, doors, you'll see. Come down, don't mind nobody. We got the best tiles on island. Trust me. We are located Lance Road in Castries, Bosses Grozile, and Slack Street in Beaufort. Telephone number 453-7939. Tiles Plus.
Serving now, the Daily Dish.
And welcome back to the Lunchroom here at Radio Caribbean International. Now, quite often we get some comments that come in on our feed, on our WhatsApp feed. We don't often get a chance to go through all of those comments. But there has been a bit of talk over the past few weeks regarding the issue of roads. And of course, we depend very, very heavily on roads. Those are effectively the arteries of the country that allow for circulation, that of course we depend on significantly for movement, for all forms and purposes, be it the matter of getting to work or going to your place of abode, getting around to visit friends, for the enjoyment of whatever it may be, to enjoy your country, to explore, whatever the case may be. We're highly dependent on roads, but not just roads, of course. We're dependent on roads that allow for vehicular traffic, for cars and lorries and buses and the like to be able to move around. Now, unfortunately, our road network has been largely the same and was set at a time when, in fact, a lot of traffic was not by cars at all. And, of course, our topography has not helped at all in that regard, causing for some fairly harrowing experiences at times along some very narrow roads, heading up into mountainous, hilly areas, and the very difficult experiences are faced quite often by individuals who are not so accustomed to driving on these narrow roads. Of course, as a result of that, a lot of people try to keep to the highways. They definitely try to avoid some of these very notoriously narrow roads that can be quite challenging to many drivers, especially, of course, if you may not be the best around the wheel. Of course, we know the term used here in St. Lucia is the lame or rounded hand individuals who have to challenge these very difficult roads. I mean, we can mention a few of them, of course, like Pave being a challenging one. The Mondudor Road is pretty scary for some. In fact, I think just last week we saw a vehicle veering off one of those roads. And, of course, La Panse is another notable one where you find that individuals, because it's a very built-up area, and people park along the sides because lots of people now have vehicles, and it was those communities developed at a time before we had requirements for off-street parking and the like, and so people don't have much of a choice except to park on the roads. And of course, this has been very much a challenge in so many different areas around St. Lucia, and it certainly has posed a considerable challenge for drivers. Of course, quite often the issue of parking, on-street parking, has caused for accidents, has caused for congestion, especially if that you may have a business sometimes that is right next to on a corner. It might be a bar, it might be a restaurant, and individuals at certain times of the day will be found parking right there. And people, of course, because of the narrowness of the roads, have no choice but to veer into the other lane, and sometimes do so at their own risk and their own peril. And a lot of our accidents, unfortunately, to some degree, have some association with the nature of these types of realities that we have to deal with. There have been attempts over the years, of course, to change how we utilize our roads, our streets, because they're so narrow. And, of course, there once was a time in Castries where every road was a two-way road. And so, of course, that meant that you had traffic going in both directions, and that sometimes has posed a major challenge. Later on, we saw the introduction of one-way streets and far more one-way streets in the city center. And, of course, that allowed for parking, some level of on-street parking in the city center. That has helped to a fair degree, and of course a hierarchy of roads is also very important to be able to indicate where the general flow of traffic should be heading. In the case of Castries, for instance, we don't yet have a true bypass, a significant national level or arterial level bypass road for Castries. And so most of the traffic that has to head south from the north has to, in fact, pass through the city center. And, of course, attempts have been done over the years to enable a better flow of traffic. I mean, we saw, of course, the introduction of the John Compton Highway, which went through Sans Souci and the waterfront, which then brought traffic into the city. It helped to ease traffic on the Vide-Bouteille Chaussee Road link. But of course, it still meant that traffic was coming into the city. And so that has still a major impact, especially when you have other conflicts of traffic, such as what we may see very soon, where you have cruise vessels which are docking at the northern wharf of, and of course, near La Place Carénage. We see a lot of conflicts there, traffic conflicts, that is, when it comes to the matter of pedestrians trying to get onto the other side of Jeremy Street. You've got taxi operators who are also trying to head south, having to make those right turns to head south, causing congestion there, of course. And we're going to be seeing a lot of that type of conflict as the season opens up. But certainly the matter of these other roads, which are quite often used to bypass traffic, that has been has been a mixed bag for sure. Because in as much as we certainly do want to be able to bypass the city, the roads that are used to be able to bypass the city or to find another access point in and out of the city, those roads are still have not changed in a very, very long time. And there was an attempt, I recall, some years back in the late 1990s to look at that loop that is created by the Le Pensée Road and the Mondador Road. And that, I think, did seem to have worked to some degree. In other words, that you would have to go up one way, going up Le Pensée, I believe it was, and then come back down the Mondador Road. You would have thought that would have been a good plan, but it seemed as if there was some level of opposition from it by the public transport sector. The National Council for Public Transport, I think at the time, seemed to have raised objections to that, and it seemed not to have lasted as long as it perhaps should have up to this point. But there's no doubt about it that we are getting to a point where you're seeing quite a lot of traffic on some of these back roads, so to speak, and especially those very, very narrow ones. You will end up with lots of traffic issues as they are being utilized even more. And there was a post which came in appealing to the matter of one such road, and that was the issue of a road in the Leclerc area. And we got a post and it said as follows: "Good morning. I'm making a plea for some attention to be given for proper accessibility of the Active Hill Road. That road is too narrow for two-way traffic. I'm hoping that the parliamentary representative, who is also the Minister of Infrastructure, would seriously examine the issue." And of course, as rightfully mentioned by that post, those of you who have traversed that area will realize that yes, it is very challenging sometimes to negotiate these roads, especially with, as I mentioned, people buying cars, people parking on the sides. So the parking is one issue, and the lack of control in terms of parking in many of these roads is a major concern. But the reality is that because of the amount of traffic that you're dealing with too, it simply is going to be, there is going to have to be some consideration to look at some of these roads really being one-way roads indeed. We've seen that happen in the case of the Citygate Road. That road is now one-way heading into onto the Castries Grosley Highway, particularly because of the nature of that sharp bend. It would be really difficult for a southbound vehicle to be able to make a turn at that point, and so it's has been deemed, in fact, a one-way road. It's only access onto the highway, no access off from the highway at that point. We have seen other attempts, even in the York Hill area, for instance, to have one-way roads in some areas there. And of course, in other parts of the country, consideration needs certainly to be given in that regard. In particular, I would say in the city centers or the town centers like Grosley, we're seeing quite a lot of issue there. Again, lots of vehicles looking for parking. There's very little off-street parking that is generally available. People have to park on the street side, and a lot of times those two-way streets are simply really blocked. And so there's a lot of issues of congestion when it comes to that matter of management of parking, as well as ensuring the free flow of and the safe and reasonable flow of traffic. Now, other issues such as traffic curbing are certainly another matter that we have to speak about. And of course, in built-up areas and trying to ensure that people are not speeding is certainly of great concern as well. Now, we've seen quite a lot about the issue of vehicular traffic, but part of the challenge that we also have is the absence of sidewalks on a lot of roads in our country. And that is also, it has different implications. Because one, having a dedicated sidewalk could possibly encourage people to walk more because they would feel safer in being able to actually walk along a road, especially if that road has regular traffic. You need to have dedicated raised sidewalks for that purpose. And that's a really important aspect in ensuring that a place becomes more walkable and more attractive. Now, this has a lot to do in terms of a lot of theories about urban planning and the issue of walkability. And unfortunately, what we've seen in terms of the style of our development over the past decades is that we've pretty much copied what the United States has been doing, excuse me, as well as countries that have just gone around with the same model of suburbanization that has been copied from the United States. And that has been creating suburbs which are very much dependent on cars to get from any point from your home to any other point, whether you're trying to get to a supermarket or a park or some sort of amenity or service, you end up having to drive because the distance that you have to go is further and further. And this has a lot to do with the land use as well, the preference towards these quote-unquote single-family residential lots. Invariably, there's a minimum lot size, which means that, of course, you've got to have more and more space. And, of course, people do want to have their lawns and what have you. But we're seeing that, 5,000 and upward square feet of space in most instances for lots. And it therefore means that everybody is more spaced out. Now, that seems to be nice in terms of one's privacy and in terms of, having enough space for your person, your family and whatever to play within a private space. But it doesn't necessarily help in terms of building community. In fact, there have been lots of studies that have shown that suburbs, places which have that form of development, tend to have a lot of loneliness, tend to have a lot of lonely people, people who may more likely end up in situations being depressed. They are not as well connected to the community. So yes, you've got a lot of people living in some new communities, but they don't even know their neighbors. They don't really interact with their neighbors on a very regular basis. Maybe if somebody has an event, a party or something, then you might see everybody. But to say that you're meeting your neighbors and seeing them on a regular, near daily basis, it's very different. And so the level of community cohesion that you would get, say, in an ancillary village or in a Grosley town or in a Soufriere town, as compared to what you may see even in a Masque or in another part of Soufrière, like maybe even Palmiste, or even further out, like in Abonte or Grand Rivière or Beauséjour, where you've got these types of suburbs, things are much further out. It therefore means that you have less community, a sense of community quite often. But in addition to that, there is actually that economic issue of having people to travel far distances to get to services. And unfortunately, part of the challenge there too is that even if there are services, quite often they may not necessarily have good walkable neighborhoods with sidewalks to encourage people to actually move around and use those services. So we do have to be thinking about that, and the issue of ensuring that we have good sidewalks where they are needed, I should point out, most importantly, in communities that really need them. That is really very critical. I mean, there has been a big debate over the ongoing issue of the Millennium Highway and the investment in some sidewalks that have been put alongside the Millennium Highway. And a lot of people have been asking, well, who's really walking in some of these areas? And you can compare maybe that section of roadway to other areas that definitely need sidewalks, where you've got linear communities like in the Bexor, Sarot, Ravine-Poisson area, where you already have that highway running through that corridor, and you've got lots of built-up areas around there with a lot of community movement back and forth. Definitely a need for sidewalks in those types of areas. So again, it speaks to the need for conscientious planning and looking at our reality, especially in terms of the situation with how we develop and how we can hopefully become less dependent on vehicles and perhaps more look more towards other alternative forms of transportation. That's our dish of the day. When we come back, we will take in your calls.
This has been The Daily Dish.
One tiles for your home, I see. Bathroom, kitchen, pantry. Need tiles for your balcony. Come down to Tiles Plus, satisfaction guarantee. Tiles Plus, Tiles Plus, Tiles Plus. Big tiles with unbeatable cost. Customer service, A+. Need all kind of tiles. Come down to Tiles Plus. We also glad gasway and vanity. Books, doors, you'll see. Come down, don't mind nobody. We got the best tiles on island. Trust me. We are located Land Street in Castries, Beauséjour, Grosile, and Slack Street in Dufort. Telephone number 453-7939.
And welcome back to the Lunchroom here at Radio Caribbean International. Of course, the number to call in to tell us what's on your plate today, it is 452-3046. Again, 452-3046. And you can also call in to our WhatsApp number. That is 724-0008. Again, 724-0008. And we've been having a bit of a conversation on the matter of mobility, how we move around, how we can do so more effectively, and of course also more sustainably. The issue of road networks is not just a problem here in St. Lucia, with all our challenges in terms of trying to maintain these road networks. The other thing about sprawl, about building further and further and further out, and just, this belief that, you can, if we want more housing, it just means that we just need to clear more land and then continue to build further and further out. Not only does it become very bland and monotonous, and to some degree as well, it can be very bad for the environment, because we're actually clearing more green areas. We're going further out, and it means that a lot of your agricultural land is being taken up. A lot of your natural areas are going to end up being taken up in development. A lot of that land, of course, as we well know, it could very well be mountainous, hilly. That has issues in terms of water conservation and the problems that we're having with flash flooding. We have seen recently, for instance, what happened in the Labrador, Grand Riviere, Corinth Valley. When we saw those, was it November the 5th, rains, and we had flash flooding. And a lot of that, of course, has to do with the fact that you're taking up more of the surface in that catchment is becoming impervious. It's not the normal soil. It's not soaking in the water. It's not taking in water and holding it for a long time. The trees are not there to slow down the rate at which that water is getting onto the surface, onto the ground. And we've got lots of lovely roofs which are just putting that water into these gutters and straight down into the ground and straight along these concrete driveways and into those drains faster and faster. And what you end up having, especially in these urban built-up areas, is that the water, the water system, the drainage network just simply can't handle the rate at which that water is actually getting into the rivers. And so you end up with these situations where we're facing flash flooding in that area of Grand Riviere, Corinth, Bois d'Orge. And unless if we perhaps see how then you can create ways of trying to slow down the rate at which that water is getting into those rivers, it's going to continue to be a major problem, regardless of, and it only gets worse, it only gets more accentuated with the issue of climate change. So the idea about this continuous urban sprawl is not good for the environment, but it's also not very sustainable in terms of just managing and maintaining the infrastructure that you have to actually put down, because it therefore means that you've got to be building more new roads, you've got to be building more new utility lines, and unfortunately it sometimes will mean even further and further out. And so what that ends up doing is it becomes very costly for the state to be able to maintain just that. Now, of course, we've had a perennial problem with respect to that, and quite often we've seen the issue of developers offering land. They want to offer a deal. They'll tell you that, we haven't put in the infrastructure yet, but you can buy it now at a cheaper price, and that will come later on down the line. And unfortunately, in the past, that never happened. So you have a lot of developments which have suffered from that type of situation where infrastructure was never properly put in, or in some instances, in a lot of instances, it was done subpar. And so people are now left with the situation where they've built their lovely homes, but their access to their homes is a problem. And in some instances, it can even be worse. They may not even have a water connection in some areas. So you've got a lot of these issues. And we think that this is just symptomatic of a small island developing state. No, the reality is that even in the United States of America, they're having issues in certain areas which developed over time. And because of demographic shifts, or because of issues of climate change, or where those developments were done, they're becoming less able to keep up with the maintenance of those areas. And the Rust Belt of the United States is a very good example of that. You look at what was once a thriving city, the auto capital of the United States, at least that of Detroit, Michigan, the home of a lot of car companies which were operating. And you saw a massive expansion of that place. But of course, once the industries began moving out, and then the taxes began dropping, and this was designed as sprawl, as best as you could have it. All right, with roads heading further and further out, very, very difficult to maintain, and it's now a major challenge for Detroit. Let's take in a call at this time as we try to widen the conversation. Good afternoon and welcome to the Lunchroom. What's on your plate today?
Mr. George.
How are you doing, caller?
Not too bad.
Wonderful. And what's on your plate today?
Not much. Talking about the road in St. Lucia. I grew up in St. Lucia. Well, the late 30s and the 40s as a kid. And sometimes you can sit down on a road or like Rock Hall, sit down there. Is one car.
You could fall asleep on the road.
You can sleep on the road because in the morning, Papi Clark go down. And when Papi Clark go down and probably Reggie go down, the two of them is in the afternoon. Late in the afternoon, they go coming up.
Right.
And there's nothing coming down that road again.
Right.
Nothing coming up that road. And Rock Hall, probably 2 or 3 cars run there during the day, and the road was made to walk. People walked in the middle of the road. They didn't need no sidewalk because the only thing that will come down in the morning was the rubbish cat. Kabuea.
Okay.
Zodi.
Right.
You see, the rubbish cat will come down in the morning, probably 8 o'clock, and around 4 o'clock they're going up. About 4, 5, 6 of them picking up the city rubbish. And so that's why we didn't have vehicles. So the road, the way they make it, somehow the house built just from the road.
Right.
You come out from the road and you enter. Not too long ago, I was in Cedars. And
Yes.
I see some road near Cedars there. People coming from the road straight to the house. You see? But I don't know how long that road, because to me, Cedars was just like farmland when I was growing up.
I'm not too sure when Cedars was actually developed. I'm guessing maybe around the 70s, the 60s and 70s maybe. I would think,
I lived in St. Lucia a long time ago, before that. Yeah, so that's how is the vehicle. We didn't have vehicle in St. Lucia, so it wasn't a problem. Most of the road was people walking on the road.
Right.
You see, so when they built those infrastructure, they didn't have a lot of vehicle in mind. But when I think when the Queen visited St. Lucia, I can't remember what
1966
television I was watching, and I saw the amount of vehicle and John Compton Way, and they have traffic jam and thing. I said, that's not St. Lucia. That cannot be St. Lucia traffic jam.
Well, she visited, I think, in 1966 and 1985.
Yeah.
So maybe you're talking about in the 80s.
80s, yeah.
Okay, all right, yes.
No. It was in the 60s.
Oh, in the 60s, okay, 1985. 1966, sorry.
Yeah. 60s. Yeah, because I could remember when I come down there, I visit St. Lucia in 1969, and my mother was telling me about the Queen visit and all things like that.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's why you find the infrastructure, when they build it, they didn't have a lot of vehicle in mind. They didn't have a lot of big truck in mind. And they didn't build it say for the future. No.
Well, I suppose there was no belief that we would have gotten to a point where we would need 4-lane highways and the like. For instance,
dual carriageway. That's what we're going for now.
Yep.
You see, dual carriageway, but we didn't have that in mind. So that's why, and the road is like that, and the houses to build, take out, it costs a lot sometimes to take out a whole row of houses to enlarge the road.
Oh yes, exactly. And that's what the challenge there. The land acquisition, the property acquisition.
Yeah.
Is astounding in some areas, especially if you're talking about, land that is now probably valued at $30-40 a square foot.
But you don't talk about land now?
So it's
the CDC, they take down the CDC.
Yes.
And that land, the government get it for nothing. They didn't pay the people nothing for the land.
Well, you mentioned that yesterday or some days ago, yes.
I did call him thing when he was there.
Yeah, I think on Tuesday you spoke about that.
Now, Richard said it's probably $14 and $15 a square. The land is too expensive to build anything there. They have to find out what they can put there because of the price of land.
Well, I think, let's face it, this land is actually owned by the Castries Constituencies Council, actually. Interesting enough, that was the arrangement. So the land was owned by the Castries Constituency Council, which was the beneficiary of it at the time. Well, I guess it was called the Castries Town Board back in the 1940s. And then later on, the houses were managed by the Housing Authority, which then became later on the National Housing Corporation, or HUDC as well.
George, most of the houses in Castries Central was owned by the people themselves.
Oh yes, certainly, certainly.
House and land.
Yes, definitely. I mean, that was what it was. These were all, and in fact, in that area, well, it was the working class area of the town.
But all there used to be sea, They pushed the sea when they wanted to bring all the coal ship in St. Lucia. St. Lucia was where most boats come to pick up charcoal.
Well, it wasn't charcoal, but actual coal from the ground.
Yeah, they have a name and they call that coal, Chebote. That they push the sea out. When we say we have a natural harbor, that's a man-made harbor. They push and put big cedar tree to make the wharf.
Yeah. You're very correct about that, caller. I think in the 1880s that is what in fact happened.
So the sea all by the square there. The sea was coming up all by the square.
Well, I'm not sure if we reached by the square actually, but the river was actually navigable. The Castries River was navigable.
There was an old man named Goro, and he lived well over 100, and he that used to tell me about, when they built that wharf there, and he know a lot about it.
Okay.
And they push. And when they was building the CDC, those people, because we didn't have ways of putting flushing toilet, because anytime you dig about 3 foot down,
you would hit water. Yeah.
You hit the sea, the water, the sea coming from the sea itself. So those people come in a way, they had the way, they study it, and they come with something like donkey pump. It's a pump you
Lister
put it
pumps,
on,
I think they were called, yeah.
And they will pump night and day for a whole month. So all you have to do is to put a little gas on them, and they'll pump. Mm-hmm. So they'll pump when they dig in, they pump in the water out all the time until they can run that pipe, big iron pipe. It's big iron pipe under the street.
For the sewers,
Then they could do whatever they wanted to do.
Caller, we're going to have to end it here, though, because we're due for our weather report, unfortunately. But thanks very much for sharing with you on that very important point. But we do have to take our weather report. And it, of course, is brought to you the kind compliments of Tiles Plus.
Thank you so very much, Calixte.
Make your home merry and bright with Island Style's massive Christmas sale. Our wide range of porcelain and ceramic tiles are on sale up to 50% off. And that's not all. Save up to 15% off. Bathrooms with bundle and save. The more you buy, the more you save. On gorgeous bathroom vanities, bathtubs, faucets, shower glass, toilets, and more. Plus, contractors and tilers are in for a treat with our special discounts on tiling tools and accessories. Sale on now at all locations. Castries, Rodney Bay, and Viewfort, or call 450-452 or 453 Tile. It's time to deck the halls, deck the walls, or even deck the deck with huge Christmas savings only at Island Style.
This is Radio Caribbean International. It's now time for the weather news.
And our weather report is brought to you with the kind compliments of Island Style Thailand Bath. The weather report as of 12 noon today for the 2nd of November 2023. Our forecaster is Andre Joyer. The forecast for St. Lucia valid for the next 24 hours. The winds will be blowing from the east near 17 miles per hour or 28 kilometers per hour with gust near showers. And the weather, fair skies becoming cloudy at times with a few scattered showers and a chance of isolated thunderstorms. Again, the winds blowing from the east near 17 miles per hour or 28 kilometers per hour with gust near showers. And the weather, fair skies becoming cloudy at times with a few scattered showers and a chance of isolated thunderstorms. On now to the marine forecast for seas in a 25-mile or 40-kilometer radius from St. Lucia. The high tide for the Castries Harbour will be at 11 minutes after 6 this evening. Low tide will be at 12 minutes before 2 in the morning. And the Vieux Bay, presently we are experiencing low tide. The high tide will be at 18 minutes after 7 tonight. The seas moderate to locally rough with waves and easterly swells 5 to 7 feet. The same as 1.5 to 2.1 meters in open waters. Small craft operators and seabathers are advised to exercise caution due to above normal seas. For the Lesser Antilles, it's partly cloudy to occasionally cloudy skies with widely scattered showers and isolated thunderstorms. Now for the tropical weather outlook, a surface trough drifting slowly westward will continue to cause some cloudy periods with showers and isolated thunderstorms across the Lesser Antilles during the next 24 hours. And the Atlantic high pressure system will continue to generate light to moderate easterly winds over the Eastern Caribbean during the next few days, or couple of days rather. So a recap of our tropical weather outlook. A surface trough drifting slowly westward will continue to cause some cloudy periods with showers and isolated thunderstorms across the Lesser Antilles during the next 24 hours. And the Atlantic high pressure system will continue to generate light to moderate easterly winds over the Eastern Caribbean during the next couple of days. Remember also there is an advisory out for small craft operators and seabathers to exercise caution, and that is due to above normal seas. That is our official weather report. Thank you, Andre. Join us again in the morning at around 6:30. Our next report is due on the station. The weather report was brought to you by Island Style Thailand Bath.
This has been RCI's Weather News. For more information, call the Weather Hotline at 454-3452. RCI 101 number 1.
Make your home merry and bright with Island Style's massive Christmas sale. Our wide range of porcelain and ceramic tiles are on sale up to 50% off. And that's not all. Save up to 15% off. Bathrooms with bundle and save. The more you buy, the more you save. On gorgeous bathroom vanities, bathtubs, faucets, shower glass, toilets, and more. Plus, contractors and tilers are in for a treat with our special discounts on tiling tools and accessories. Sale on now at all locations: Castries, Rodney Bay, and Viewfort. Or call 450-452 or 453 Tile. It's time to deck the halls, deck the walls, or even deck the deck with huge Christmas savings only at Island Style.
And welcome back to the Lunchroom here at Radio Caribbean International. Again, thanks to Island Styles Tile and Bath for the weather report for 12 o'clock. Now, of course, if you want to call in to tell us what's on your plate today, the number to do so is 452-3046. Again, 452-3046. And, of course, we were just speaking about the matter of transit and roads and, of course, the issue of congestion. And as that last caller was pointing out, many of those roads were cut and were aligned at a time far beyond when vehicles were really not so very prevalent on this road, on this island. I think now we're somewhere at about maybe 70,000 or so vehicles on island, and you probably have well over 10 to 20,000 vehicles entering the city on a regular basis or on a daily basis during the week. And it wasn't always that way. In fact, very interestingly, if you might get a copy of what was then called the New Plan for Castries in 1948. And it was done by the Office of the Executive Architect for the Windward Islands. And at that time, there were a few gentlemen who, I think there's Mr. Rose as well as a Mr. Lewis. Mr. Rose from Jamaica and Mr. Lewis from Trinidad. They're responsible for developing that plan. And there was an interesting bit of data that I'll share with you in just a bit on the traffic at that time. But let's take another call. Good afternoon and welcome to the Lunchroom. What's on your plate today?
Good afternoon, my brother.
How are you doing, caller?
I'm doing fine, man. And you?
I'm very good, thank you.
Okay,
Go right
that was
ahead.
what I want to find out. The last administration took off a lot of government offices and put them in rented space. I want to know what is going to happen with, for instance, customs, the treasury, the police. I mean, if I could recall, the last figure we had for rental space about $74 million annually.
That's correct. They're in that region, over 70
Now,
million.
Calixte, just think about that. Any smart government in a small country like ours, small economy, in fact, what I want to call a service economy, would really take this thing serious. Because $74 million annually, you could build, you have all the lands there at Union. Government has a lot of land in Union.
That's correct.
The same next to infrastructure.
Union Agricultural
Why don't the
Station.
government, well, I'm not looking at this government, but that is the plan of a government, whichever one that comes.
Right.
Obviously, the last one did not have that intention at all. But we have to plan for long term. That is a lot of money going in rents. And you don't want to know how much money NIC have saved in having their own building. And we just saw Richard Frederick took a very bold step, which is so admirable. And I think the government, the prime minister, have to look at this thing holistically and say, look, and you see, and then again, I don't really want to blame a politician because I remember Kenyan making a promise. Within 20 years, he would have had a university grad in all houses. But here, what happened? They actually took him out and put another idiot back. No, but the government have to look at this thing very serious because we could have 2 7-floor buildings there. Well, I'm talking about 7-floor buildings. What's wrong with that? We have the land. It's government. And you take this thing and you build offices for the government blocks. You have enough parking spots up there. You have all what you need. And just imagine, paying those structures could never be that amount of money annually.
Well, think of it this way, caller. In a 10-year period, at the rate we're going, we're spending $770 million, eh?
Exactly.
Right? I mean, that's a lot of buildings that you could build.
This is waste. This is waste. So when I mean, to make it worse, we were not there 10 years ago. This last government doubled the amount of rent we had. When his father was on television every time giving Kenny blows for having so many offices rented, but he benefited in about 3 or 4 offices being rented in his building. We have to look at this. I've always said, Calixte, our poverty in this region is not because we don't have oil or diamond, because of political corruption, political mishandling of our tax money. That is exactly and only why we are where we are. We could have been St. Lucia could have been so much more advanced, man, because this country have had a lot of access to money. But all these monies are going in paying rent. $74 million, Calixte. We have enough land in this country to build government offices. And after 20 or 30 years, you only have to pay for maintenance and usage of the building, but not a loan.
No, you're correct. And I mean, for instance, that decision was taken with respect to, let's say, the Ministry of Infrastructure building, and it's paid off for.
Great move by Kenyan.
So it's fully owned by the government of St. Lucia.
Yeah, one of the best moves.
So
now, what I wanted to find out, why I want to get an answer from the former Prime Minister. Why the Bois Mall that was purchased by Amazon Properties was intended to be an office block. Why was it sold? Why didn't pursue it? Why did not go? What was the problem? What was the reason that they rather give it away? In fact, I say give. I believe Alan Chastney have shares in that building. Honestly,
well, we don't know that.
No, I don't know that. But
so you can't claim that.
But by speculation, is a speculation. Okay, well, Calixte, I'm asking the question.
But put it this way: yes, I think the property was bought by the government back in 2008. I think in the region of 30 million EC dollars.
Yes.
Then you recall that time went by and there was interest payments for it. So I think at the end of the day, I don't know the exact amounts. I'm not even going to, but there was a considerable amount of interest in the millions, which had to be paid off by the Kenyatta administration. And then let's just say roughly 40 million. I suspect it was more than that.
Yeah.
And then I believe the building was sold for 5 million.
What was said was for 5 or for 14. But he gave
13, maybe say 13. But at the end of the day, it was that the government was selling it for a fraction of the cost that it actually purchased it, and then I also agreed to enter into a 16.5-year lease arrangement, and so which the government has to honor now for that. And then at the end of the day, they don't actually own the entire property. They will end up owning, I think, 2 floors, the first and second floor of the ground floor will still be.
You're going to be renting. That's not renting is not ownership.
No. So the arrangement is that after the that lease period.
Yeah, 16 years.
It's a sort of like a lease to own. So after it, they would end up owning part of the building, but not the entire complex. So it's an interesting arrangement there. So they'll still end up having to be in a situation where they will have to be paying certain fees on an annual basis. So
Alex, let me tell you something. If something is not done in this country with this mismanagement we have had in this country, politically, I mean, I just came from Dominica. I see Dominica has less than 70,000 people.
Mm-hmm.
And with one government being there for 25 years, I see Dominica is thriving very well. Honestly, I see we have 5 times more pothole than in Dominica. Because you cannot be putting a government in office and next than 5 years you want to take them out. I'm saying again, that was the biggest mistake solutions ever made when they took off Kennedy and Tony at Labour Party from office. We could have been way ahead. Dominica now has gone through, LEDs right through the island.
But Caller, remember this was supposed to have been what it was. I mean, there was a whole thing that was signed under James Fletcher with the Caribbean Development Bank model arrangement. We were supposed to have had this done years ago in terms of the
St. Lucia is paying for the sins, man. So. We are paying for our stupidity. The last 5 years, you see politicians has gotten so rich, and I'm now wondering what is the interest those technocrats in government have to even be able to hire or to discover a special prosecutor, because they may as well have answers to questions to answer. But the Prime Minister might have to take that on his own merit to see that is implemented.
Well, Caller, and it's interesting that you're making that point, because maybe I can also add to that the whole conversation about the special prosecutor. And quite often you hear certain people, yes, the politicians, they have to account. But guess what? Invariably, the politician is not the one whose signature is on a lot of things, It's usually the authorizing officer, the permanent secretary. So,
exactly.
So
these guys, and if JP believes letting these guys do or to bring about a special prosecutor, I think he has to think again. They don't have the interest, because they may as well be. In fact, no politicians can send check in this country. This lavish, wasteful. Now that's not spending. That is stealing. We have to call a spade. But the question I wanted to ask a while ago is it all right? Question is, I want Mrs. Shasta to ask, does he have any share in the mall in Bois? If he's man enough, he can answer that small question. Are you a shareholder in the mall where you give away 50 million and allowing the owner of that building for 16 years to make hundreds of millions again on taxpayers in this country? Thank you, man.
Well, thanks very much for that, caller.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that we're going to get a response, but of course it's something that I suppose we do have to ask. I do recall, I mean, the politics is the nature of it, of course. I remember when the United Workers' Party used to, on a very regular basis, accuse Dr. Kenny Anthony of owning a mall in Trinidad or something of the sort. You used to hear lots of interesting accusations being made all the time. But I suppose, that's the nature of politics. Let's take in another call at this time. Good afternoon and welcome to the Lunchroom. What's on your plate today? Hello, good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon.
Hi, caller. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you. I was more calling for my roads, in Lockery, but...
Sorry, what about your roads?
Sidewalks.
Oh, you need more sidewalks for your roads.
Yeah, because they did a sidewalk. It started just to the entrance to the Lockery field.
Okay.
All the way to the thing. But going down past the Lockery field, the entrance, all the way to the Massey supermarket
Yes.
is very bad.
Yes.
Especially somebody like me, because I have my sight and I'm always walking. And then you go down the other road, which is John Street.
Yeah.
Coming from the church.
Well, we were just talking earlier on, caller, about the need for one-way streets. I really think it's time to make that John Street from the church.
It's two-way,
It's two-way right now, I know, but there's always there's always some kind of, especially like I think yesterday, the Vidbouteille Road was blocked, so traffic had to divert through La Clery, and of course sometimes people go up that road, they use it as a sort of a shortcut, so to speak. And there's always a congestion or some issue there.
It's nighttime sometimes on a Saturday because you say the buses are going down that hill and you have cars coming up. And on top of it, there are cars parked at the side, like by Sharpman.
There are always cars parked on that road,
and
yes.
Then, there's a guy working at Lazarus and he has the hearse.
And the hearse is parked there too. Yeah, I traversed that just yesterday, caller, because as I said, the Vidbouteille Road was blocked. And I think I did notice the hearse, but it was off the road, though. It was not on the road.
I mean, why park the hearse there? That's not where the funeral home is.
I'm not sure.
I think it's time maybe our reps start looking at those things, check those sidewalks up, because if you see I fall. And another thing is even the road going up north. Now, I'm saying in advance, last year I did the Red Cross walk from Pastures Comprehensive to the Ridgeway Beach. And walking along the road there is... sometimes you have to find yourself going down in holes and all sorts of things like that. And again, they have it this year, and I intend doing it again, and I'm hoping that they will clear, because the walk said that even people with disability. So if they're having a walk like that, make sure the sidewalk is cleared, the bushes cut and all sorts of things. You imagine actually going down in a hole with water. Yes, I was walking with my brother and he was walking so fast.
Okay. Yes.
So, but what I really wanted to talk about is there was this virtual thing that was sent where this mother was holding her child and she was actually in a fight with somebody else. And she kind of dropped her child on the floor to continue the fight. But the video, she says that she quickly picked up the child. And what I'm saying is the person that did that, the woman was in a fight with somebody. She has a church job. What right do you have to video that and have that sent all over the place like that? And she did pick up I just find now everything is a video. Instead, somebody had actually stopped her or actually helped pick up the child or something. First thing you see to do is video and have it sent all over the place. When that child now, grow up, and that I'm sure there's videos, and will see that. How do you think that child will feel, knowing that his mother or her mother is in a fight, and just drop him or her, and continue the fight? But she did pick up saying, what right do you have to video? I find people are doing these things a bit too much. You don't know what she was going through. Unthinkingly, she maybe just, drop the child, not even realizing what she did. But yet, a video of that is made and sent all over the place. I just find, they need to stop those things. We need to stop that. You're not thinking of the child that will see that video later on in life and felt maybe that the mother did it deliberately out of pure wicked. But, these kind of things, I just don't like it. I just find we as Sanusians, we get too cold-hearted. It's like we don't care as long as we can video anything, not caring that later on it might hurt the person or destroy lives. We don't care. We just do anything because we have a camera in our hand as if we are some kind of movie producers in St. Lucia. No need,
and of course, even more so, the hurtful thing is when you have homicides and, of course, or people who are injured from an accident or in some sort of unfortunate situation or plight, and they're being covered. So,
it's time we get, have a conscience.
We do have to be sensitive to
be more
people.
Considerate of people's feelings, as if we don't know that anymore. We are just gotten so cold-hearted and so...
Well, we have to think about the golden rule, right? And I think that is what it is, and put ourselves in that position. Would we want that to be done to us? So I think it is important that level of consciousness, consideration is brought to bear, even in situations like that. I think we've become very desensitized about it. A lot of it is just, people, you like now call people go to parties for the gram. What they mean is that they don't really go to the party to have a good time per se. They just go to the party so that they can take their picture, they can dress up, take their picture, and go back at their homes.
No, I will not say it's only here, because up to yesterday I was watching TV. There was a news break for ABC News, because this mother, I think neighbors saw her, she was actually beating up a 3-year-old and kicking that child all over the place, kicking the child, and that was videoed, and she was arrested immediately. When they were interviewing her, she was crying, and she said that she's an air stewardess, and she was very stressed out. She was totally stressed out, and the child was not listening, and she just had no idea what she was doing. But yet they didn't understand that. They took her, and they took her in, and she is in jail right now. And the child was given to the the social services.
Right.
But then she is crying and says she have never done that to her child before. Says that what she was going through, and she's a Spanish woman, because the interviewer is showing you and she's speaking in Spanish. So sometimes people go through things, and it's true, she have no right to be kicking, just like maybe the mother dropped that child accidentally. But yet, like her, it was videoed, and that is why she was caught.
Well, there's good and bad in it, caller. Yes. So I guess we have to look at it both ways. But yes, there has to be some level of sensitivity. It should not be that you're capturing something. If you're capturing it because you want to provide it to the police, or believe that there's a crime that has happened, I think that's noble, and you can certainly do that. But it shouldn't just be about making fun of an individual or
things. But yet they have never captured a criminal killing somebody.
Well, caller, that's a mystery, right? That's a very good question. We find a lot of things. I'm not sure that we can say that we've never, because there have been instances where people have videoed certain things. I can think of, let's say, up at Barnard Hill in the parking area there.
That's stealing. I'm talking about actually somebody killing someone.
Well,
sometimes when somebody's shooting someone, that somebody's not there to see and take a picture.
Maybe they're in shock. Maybe that's what it is when those acts are happening, if they in fact are witnesses. But let's hope that yes, we have to be vigilant.
Yeah.
But at the same time, yes, we have to be sensitive to how we deal with information and be responsible about it as well.
Yeah.
Thanks very much for those points and those comments, caller. Have a good one. And, of course, we'll be back again tomorrow for another program of the Lunchroom here at Radio Caribbean International. And so we do hope that you can join us for that. I'm your host, Calixte George Jr., saying goodbye.